Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Man, did y'all see that Super Bowl? That was a mud stomping, freaking hammer to the face type Super Bowl. I'm not a Seahawks fan nor a Broncos fan. Even though I'm in Kansas City, you would think I would have animosity toward the Broncos since they have to play the Chiefs twice a season. But I really don't care about football. But I watched the Super Bowl. And that was the most interesting game that I've seen because of how awesome the Seahawks did. So anyway, you can sort of tell what today's theme is going to be about, but I'm going to fully unpack that a little bit later. Just going to do some housekeeping. For some of you that might have noticed, I'm approaching 100 episodes. So in a little bit over a month, literally a little bit over a month, I will have the 100th episode. And so to get ready for the 100th episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Ask Me Anything show. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to email me, and I want you to title it Dark Logos AMA 100 episodes. So Dark Logos AMA 100 episodes. It needs to have that in the title of the email, so I don't just go and forget about it, and so I can also search for them in my Gmail account as well. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do for 100 episode, because it's like public broadcasting. Because of people like you, I am here. So I want you all to ask me anything. It can be heroclix related. It can be about life. It can be about, what type of pie do you think I should, a person should serve at a dinner for their in-laws. Like anything, and I will answer your magical question. Okay? I've been meaning to say this for a while, but I keep forgetting. Like the last 2 episodes, I keep forgetting. Also, since many of you do care, how is it in Kansas City right now? It is cold, and I have a towel over my head and a comforter wrapping my feet. So, yeah, that best describes the situation right now. I've done 3 interviews today, and I need to do 1 more. 2 for the quarry, 1 for a side writing gig, and I still need to get a hold of 1 more champion from the quarry. For the quarry. So it's like, bleh. And I still need to do a design for the quarry graphic. So, I had one gentleman said, I'm the hardest working man in heroclix. So all of a sudden I turned to James Brown. And I guess I sort of am. Yeah. Well, I'll take that back. Besides, like, maybe Norm and Glass Cabinet Films, that cat puts in more work than me. I might have more shows, but I'm betting, because he does video. I do ghetto video. I put a picture up. You get to look at my shining face and my cool graphic from Joachim Adler while you listen to the podcast. Ryan actually, goes in and puts graphics in and edits video content together and all that other jazz. So big shout outs to him. Also check out his store, the Glass Cabinet Hobbies. I think it's glasscabinethobbies.com. And that's not a paid endorsement. I just like the cat. So check out his store. All right. Anyway, so today's theme is lessons to take away from the Super Bowl. How you can Seahawk your opponent. Now, you might think, like, that's a little bit arrogant. You're going to say all of a sudden that, after listening to this show, I'm going to just raffle stomp my opponent so bad that I'm going to make them cry on the sidelines, and there's going to be JPEGs of their loss all over the internet moments after I beat them. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that after watching the Super Bowl, there's many elements that can be cross-applied to the game of heroclix. And so we're going to cover that today. And if it goes short, I'll make something else up on the fly for us to talk about. So yay. No matter what, you're going to get a full chunky hour show. All right. So there we go. So the number one thing that we're going to take away from the Super Bowl is, what are you good at? Many times I talk about well-rounding ourselves and, having diversity, but mainly playing to our strengths and playing tactics and tech that we are familiar with and we are comfortable, playing. And that's what the Seahawks did. They are a defensive team with a slightly above average quarterback from everything I saw. Okay. So are you a defensive player? Are you an offensive player? Are you more of a guy that just sees stuff but has trouble placing the figures? Understand what type of team are you managing? You are the general manager of your heroclix team, and who are you drafting? Who's in development? Who's your go-to person, and who's making salary? Who's making their worth in salary and who's not? Okay, so once you take inventory of that, then you can start to come to some conclusions. You might say, man, I love my double barrier tech, and I can play all these cool things with double barrier. I'm learning how to use double barrier offensively with the impact beam from the power plant. But I really don't like that Brother Voodoo tech. I think it's sort of lame, and I never can get it to go off right. Plus, I feel bad every time I play it. Well, guess what, son? You're not a Brother Voodoo player. You're a defensive player. And maybe, just maybe, you need to focus more on rounding out your defense. Or, better yet, applying your defense to multiple types of offenses during your play testing. So, while you still need to work on your offense, having defensive, quote-unquote, solutions will benefit you in the long run. So, the Seahawks had the biggest ups in the game of football I have ever seen. And for those people who are not familiar with the vernacular ups, that means their ability to jump, that I have ever seen. And they were just, I thought it was basketball for a moment for how high those cats were jumping. I thought I saw the Incredible Hulk sort of swoop down at one point in time and leapt up and caught a ball and then ran it in to make a touchdown. They are a very defensive-focused team. Their defense is what won them the game. Their defense scored. You don't usually see that. Like you hadn't seen that since like the Giants defense, really, a couple of years ago, and then like even before that, I think. No, Dungy's Buccaneers was like an offensive cannon, so that doesn't even count. So the defensive play was focused around disruption of the main person, which was Peyton Manning, and then interception of the ball. That was their main defense. They didn't really blitz the fire out of them. Their main goal was, we're young and we're fast and we're spry, so we're going to snap that ball, and we're just going to take it from you. Anyway, so they knew their defense. You need to know your style of play. I talked about it many times, and this is the next thing. Know your opponent. And if you're going to a big tournament and you're not fully aware, you can sort of gauge once your opponent puts their quagmire pieces together on the field and opens their mouth and starts talking about heroclix and why they like the game and whatnot. Which I always encourage people to do. As long as it doesn't distract you, have a nice little chat with your opponent at the beginning of the game about why they like heroclix and, what the things that they're looking forward to, because it gives you a very subtle but very good insight into the mindset of the player. That doesn't fully work on me because everybody knows me and they can listen to my podcast. But they don't know you. Remember that. They don't know you. So anyway, and here's how this applies back from the Super Bowl. The biggest problem with the Broncos is that when you think of the Broncos, you think of Peyton Manning. Pretty much, just Peyton Manning. When you think of the Seahawks, you think of the Legion of Boom and their quarterback. Note the difference. Please note the difference. There's the Legion of Boom, which is several players on their defensive end. It's not one guy. Okay? Then on their offense, there's really their QB. Okay? So what are you going to focus really on? You would say, well, I'm going to focus on the QB because if I can stop them from scoring, then I'm going to be in a good position because, I just need to make mild gains against a very moderate to awesome defense. Well, here's the issue. When you look at the Broncos and the focus being Peyton Manning, and all the pressure really is on Peyton Manning, and all the analysis is on Peyton Manning, guess who you have to shut down? Peyton Manning. And so when you see just them swoop in and rush him and get in his face and know every little kryptonite element to Peyton Manning, then you're aware, like, all right, the Legion of Boom is there, and they are going to stop everything that you do. We are aware of every little trick that's in your little tool belt, Batman. We know how many capsules you have left. Okay? Then you could say, like, well, the Broncos defense is okay, and they could, had plans to deal with all the stuff on the Seahawks team and their QB, and it's like, okay, cool. All right. But here's the thing. Their QB acts more like a running back than a QB. He just throws the ball like as hard as he can in a straight line, and they catch it. Like, he doesn't really float them too far. He doesn't do those Hail Mary passes like the quarterbacks of old. And he runs. He will straight run. He'll take his 5 or 10 yards that he can get by himself and slide on out so he don't get hurt. So you might say, well, that's sort of weak as a quarterback. It might be, but when your defense is offense and it's also defense and your offense is moderate, what does that say? Your offense is compensated by a hyperactive defense. You have a team, a coordinated team that is able to push forward and attack versus the weight being all on one guy. So let's sort of take this back and break it down some more into heroclix land, put it through the grinder, and serve it up. Tentpole teams is like playing the Broncos. It's like playing as the Broncos. If everything is focused on this one figure, or even more so, a one element, a one gimmick, you are setting yourself up to have to perform that one thing well. But if you fail to perform that one thing well, you are screwed. You are screwed. You might as well call in a guy named Phillips. That's the type of situation that you are in. Okay. But if we see this flexibility where if you build your team and your offense is evident and your defense is really strong, or let's flip it. If your offense is really strong and your defense is flexible and the focus is not just on one element but multiple elements, and as the game shifts, your opponent has to be worried about something different, then you have a dynamic style of play which should be emerging in the heroclix scape right now. And I've sort of touched on this in the past here and there, but I'm going to try to solidify the thought and put it out there and make it plain. The game of heroclix is finally at a position where it's a game of options more so than a game of positions. Okay, let me break that down since I solidified it. There are more pieces in the game that give you options to promote, to AE, to morph, to break off and go on solo adventure, come back on, give me asset dial bonuses, give me, synergy with resource dials, resource dials, more resource dials, special objects. All these things allow for a level of diversity of options. Heck, even revert. Even revert is an option. All right. So with all these diversity of options, what is on the board now doesn't necessarily mean that element will be on the board later, nor does any later dial elements are guaranteed to be on the board later if there is a sideboard. I really want you all to get this, because this is my dream. This is me as MLK on the Washington Mall. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day we will be playing heroclix, and you will look at your opponent's force and glare at them just as hard as you glare at their sideboard. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day there will be no such thing as support, no such thing as primary attacker, but all heroclix shall be created equal and be seen as a threat. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day shenanigans can walk alongside hyper aggro and eat at the table of heroclix meta. I have a dream today, and that dream is not far off. Okay, now that I've pretty much bastardized Martin Luther King during Black History Month, I hope you get my point. Options, diversity, flexibility, a defense that turns into offense, a offense that makes minor gains and creates openings and then is able to make whatever play happen. So I really want everyone to see that. The next part that I want us to extrapolate from that game is, and I'm saying this not as an insult to players that I deal with or just the heroclix community in general, but watch your smack talk and watch your arrogance. And I'm just saying this in general. I'm not pointing anybody out. I'm not shaking and wagging my finger at somebody. But watch your arrogance and watch your smack talk. Periodically throughout the game, especially in the early game, there were stupid mistakes done on both teams because they got cocky. The Broncos thought that they were going to come in and roll this rookie team, and they made some early mistakes, and they didn't really understand how strong the defense was in the special teams for the Seahawks. The Seahawks came in with the chip the size of Mount Everest on their shoulder, and at every play they had a little celebration thing or a phrase. Heck, I even heard a couple times them yell "Romo" to I guess Peyton Manning, saying that he's going to choke. So. And even with that, it led to a lot of misplays. There were just a lot of misplays, a lot of false starts that shouldn't have happened. Now, let's go back to heroclix. How does this happen? How do we have false starts in heroclix? Well, first off, I'll say this. People will look at a big tournament and then say, this is the meta. And then say anything outside of this circle which I've drawn, which has these teams in it, is not the meta. Okay? Everything in this circle is the meta. Because these people that go to these tournaments and make the top 16 and top 8, top 4 and winner are super geniuses that dedicate all of their lives to heroclix. I've talked to these people. That's not the case. It's really not the case. Trust me. We, as much as we want to be at Magic the Gathering stage, and that you sit at home all day and play nothing but draft with you and your team, and you make decks upon decks, and then you go out to the events to win thousands of dollars at local events and then millions of dollars at big events. We are not at that level. There are not cats that sit home and watching eBay and at the same time watching HC Realms so that they can have this cornucopia of heroclix and master everything under the sun. Okay, that's not going on. Now, what is going on is there are individuals that are spending time. Okay, but what happens is that people get cocky. Sort of going back to the point, people get cocky, and in their process of getting cocky, they're like, you know what? I'm going to stomp them today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring out that rock tournament team that I saw. I don't really think anything can beat Shumagorath, so I'm going to play Shumagorath, that Power Plant, Mole Man, and Dinosaur, because I'll get theme, and then that'll screw a whole bunch of other stuff. And I saw what Dark Logos did to all those other cats with theme teams. So, yeah, I'll have a theme team, too. I'll be able to handle a team base, so I'll be fine. Okay? And you'll hear people not say that openly at the tournament, but you see those hints of stuff when you look at threads about the meta, or not really in the emails that I get. In the emails I get, you all ask questions and are really like studious, which I give you all credit for. You all are studious people. But when I go around and I look at different shows, and I'm not calling any show out, there's some times where I'm looking, and then let me rephrase this. These are like, I look at various shows about heroclix. These are none of the big main shows about heroclix. These are usually guys that are sitting in their basement or on their patio or wherever else just talking about clicks, and they're just doing it for fun. Sometimes when I watch those videos and I hear like, yeah, I just beat this guy and I ran this and they couldn't stop that. And I'm like, that team is whack. Like that goes through my head. Like, that team is whack. You just beat up a bunch of weak people. And you think you're hot stuff. It's like, no, your team sucked. You just don't have anybody better than you there. So where this cockiness comes in is that guy, fictional YouTube guy, will go out into a tournament where there's more people and there's more diversity. And because there hasn't been anybody that's been able to whack him upside the head really good with a stick, figuratively speaking, when it comes to heroclix, he thinks that he's the stuff, and his placement is off. He's not calling stuff at the beginning of the game like he should, and his opponents are, and they're shutting stuff down that his team depends on. And lo and behold, what ends up happening? He turns over the ball. He gives up yardage, and in the end, he almost gets shut out, but he loses. And that's a big lesson, is if you come in to any tournament thinking, I got this, I'm going to beat everybody, I am superior. A great writer of mine wrote Pride Before a Fall. Okay. And it applies to heroclix, Pride Before a Fall. And because of that, I think a lot of people will go to big stages and think that they have unshakable tech, or that they play against high-level people, and that automatically means that their area is superior or better than everybody else's, and that by proxy, that makes them better and superior, when it really doesn't. So, anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. And we're going to go look at the beginning of the game where they got that safety. And that comes back to the theme of small gains are still gains. I remember listening to the commentators, and I really like listening to commentators because they give you good stuff as a personality like myself. They give you good ammo to use in the future. But the one thing I liked about the commentators is that they really did write off the Seahawks until that butt whooping came. And the first half was over. Their tune changed. But it was interesting that what happened was the commentators were saying, after the Seahawks had scored the safety, that's not going to be enough, you're talking about Peyton Manning's offense. And Peyton Manning's offense, he can score at any time. You can't just have these little bitty points here and there. But if you look at the game, there were some more little bitty points moments, and they were still gains. Now the biggest thing about small gains is that they allow us to do several important things when it comes to heroclix and just life in general. First, it allows us to establish morale. Morale in a game is very important. The moment that one side loses morale is usually when they lose. Very few people actually recover from morale loss. Okay? Very few people recover from morale loss. The next thing is, once we are establishing small gains and that we can do that, we start to be able to process bigger gains that we're able to do. Okay? So you go from a turnover to a touchback to, going for a field goal to, getting a touchdown. You're making progression. And it's a really important thing. Not only that, when people focus on the high productivity of one thing, i.e. Peyton Manning, and that all of a sudden this person, this thing, this mechanic can produce points upon points upon points like it's magic. Anything small in comparison doesn't seem valid. And I have to watch this because in my own tech development, I'll say, I like this guy, but he doesn't do it as well as this other guy. Well, I might need to go with the guy that has lesser gains so that I'm able to do other things and then actually see like, hey, these lesser gains build toward a snowball. This other one is all in. So you have to balance that out. And the last thing about small gains is as time progresses and you make small gain upon small gain upon small gain upon small gain, it turns into a big gain. And you're able to determine from that a benchmark of what you are capable of doing consistently. If someone's able to shut down all your small gains, then they're able to shut down your big gains as well. But if they're having trouble dealing with your small gains, then you need to learn how to transition those small gains and stack them up so that overall they turn into something huge. Because I'll tell you this much, if the Seahawks defense performed exactly the same as it did, and all those touchdowns that the Seahawks got were safeties and field goals, the Seahawks would have still won. It would have been a close game, but the Seahawks still would have won. So that's the thing that I want you to get into your head. Don't neglect small beginnings. Don't neglect small gains, because you do so at your own harm and your own peril. Okay? And the biggest thing, and this is sort of the last element of this segment, because I told you I was going to give you a full hour, okay, is when you are ahead, don't feel pity. Keep pushing. When you are ahead, don't feel pity, keep pushing. Now, I'm not saying be a douchebag. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying go out there and be like, yeah, son, I killed your Silver Centurion, and I did it. I'll do it again. Yes, he deserved to be KO'd, and I hope he melts in hell. Like, you don't do that, okay? Don't be chanting, snake eyes, snake eyes, snake eyes, snake eyes. You don't be that guy, okay? But if your small gains are stacking up and your big gains are stacking up, don't let the foot off the neck. Come in and finish it. That doesn't mean that you need to be reckless, because many times people in their advantage get cocky and think that it's over and then push for the win. That push fails, and then now the game starts to swing in the other direction. So still continue your small gains, still continue your big stuff. Don't neglect your discipline and just drive it home. Just keep driving, because what will happen is that in establishing that will to win, and that will to win regardless of what's in front of you, you will set up a strong level of determination that will serve you when games go south. And your brain will have, in addition to what it's analyzing, more shorthand references to play off of in the future. For example, a guy around me that I've played heroclix for several years now with, named Jake, introduced me to Cloak in Mystics tech. This is like Vet Mutant Mayhem Cloak, who's a Spider-Man ally, and then you would copy Mystics, and then that's when Armor Piercing just came out. So he introduced me to that tech, having multiple cloaks, sort of going out there, phasing, poisoning, being really annoying. And in doing so, it opened up my mind of, oh wow, this is some cool tech. What I've done with over the years is, after I gain that info and more figures come out that do several similar things to that, I know how to press offense with poison. And I know how to do it in such a way in which my opponent is not just dying slowly. They can't do anything. Because if they hit me, they take damage. They sit there, they take damage. They run away, I'm going to find a way to deal them damage. And so in developing a darned if you do, darned if you don't, darned if you just sit, I've had to develop, I had to have this patience, and I also had to have this diligence, because it would be easy for me to just push, exploit weakness, side blast with sharpshooter, and all this other stuff that really could lead to my downfall. So, always just keep the pressure on, because throughout that game, at no point in time did the Seahawks were like, we got this, son, let's just act, silly. You could say the last 5 minutes of the game, it was pretty much over. So they let the B team in and say hey guys, you got to play in the Super Bowl. Isn't that awesome? We already know what that was. It was thank you for the ride. Here's your consolation prize. You get to sit, and you get to go out there and play. You didn't get to ride the bench the entire time. So going back, the biggest elements that we can see is that there's diversity coming, in that there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of focus that we need to have, there's a lot of discipline that we need to have, and most importantly, I feel, is we need to know what our game is. No matter what, be you. Don't try to be Dark Logos. Don't try to be Alex Avila. Don't try to be Dan Joins. Don't try to be, George Masu. Don't try to be any cat that you see out there. Be you. Okay? And in being you, you will develop something that will make you the next big guy. Or if not the next big guy, it'll make you be known. Because I'll say this much. Think about every person that has gone through your venue that's played cheesy stuff. Really hard to remember their names, isn't it? You can see their face probably, you can see their figures, you can see their teams, but it's really hard to remember their name. Now, actually think about every guy that you've played that's consistently giving you challenges and has played standard and abnormal things that's had to make you think. You can probably name that guy, huh? Yeah. And that's my point. So, anyway, with that being said, I told you I was going to give you a full hour. So, we're going to enter the ranting zone. Or, well, not the ranting zone. We're going to enter the Twilight Zone. And what we're going to do is we're going to just analyze a bunch of stuff that I just find interesting right now. I know I normally say, like, I don't do spoilers and I don't do things before they're officially out. And I really don't. But next week is going to be Superman on the 12th. 12th, I think. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, this is not the official Dark Logos Analyzes Superman in a Legion of Superheroes set review. Because you know me, you'll get a good 3 hours of that and all that other good jazz. So, but this is just some major concerns that I've had about HeroClix and about some of the set stuff that's come out. So be forewarned. It'll be a little bit, yeah, that's opinion, and a little bit, maybe I need to pay attention to that. Okay, so let's really get into it. First off, I like what they've done just overall with the Superman Legion of Superheroes. Like, in general, it's pretty positive. There's some stuff in there that's like, man, you're okay. There's some of that. There's some other stuff that's like, you're almost broken. Not quite, but almost broken. And there's only like maybe 2 items on there so far. Note, I do say so far, that I'm like, that's broke strong. Hashtag it, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. That's broke strong right there. Because I don't like that. And so, like, some of the fun stuff is like the Cosmic Boy. It's like, hey guys, I can take tokens off if you are a Legion member. It's like, alright, that's awesome. And I'm like, oh right, I like that. And I mean, that's the one from the Gravity Feed, and then the one from both of the Cosmic Boys do it. So they're both are like leadership guys. And so I like that. I also like the number 1 Cosmic Boy, because he can use TK twice as a free action. Technically he can like just perpetually TK, which I find pretty awesome. Now the other thing that's sort of cool, that lets us know in the future, in directions that we're going, is stealth might be awesome now. But stealth is going to have its workarounds that people are going to find. And people are going to really, really, really be, dialing it in on dealing with stealth. Because I think stealth sort of came in and crept up and said, like, oh, you forgot about me. Stab you in the back. Stab you in the back. What's that famous, like, D&D shirt? Like, rogues do it from behind. Like, stabbing, that is. They stab from behind. And so that's how I feel. Like, Cosmic Boy is the beginning of that stab. It's like, oh, you stabbed me from behind. Judo reverse weird throw. Boom, you're on the ground. So I think that's cool. I also think they're trying to create is a situation in which momentum is gained through leadership versus I have Indomitable and I am able to perpetually move every turn, plus I have some mechanic that allows me to attack 5 times when I have 3 tokens on me. Silly stuff. That sort of aggro I think we don't need to have. I think what we do need to move towards is I take tokens off of you and that opens up whatever. So that's a positive. I think that's a good thing. I also think like more minions is fun. Like the Demonites. Like those are like classic, I think, Wildcats villains. I know they were in Image for a long time. They fought like Gen 13 and was it Team 7? Was it Team 7? I thought that was the name of it. But they fought those cats. So it was pretty cool. So I like more generics. I like the fact that they can I just like the fact that they come in at a reasonable cost and they bring blades and some other goodness and shape change and healing, and they're really sturdy for 50 points. So that's a big thing I like. This is interesting. This might be a little bit broken, but I need to come back to this later. Is Wildfire. At 180, he's not going to just come in there and challenge Silver Centurion. Definitely with Silver Centurion passive teams that we're seeing right now. But I can guarantee you that he's going to be with a Supergirl on like a 400-point team. And he's going to be very evil with double target energy explosion. And yeah. And I know we're going to get a new Dawnstar, but old Dawnstar with him, like that is going to be ridiculous. Yeah, because you get to modify his attack and damage, and on his top click, that's like 12 attack, 5 damage, and we're not even counting like, utility belts or, hammers or anything. Like, it's just, he can crank out some damage, and that's the one thing, like, to a gripe. That's the one thing whenever a set has Superman on it, or it's mainly promoted as like Superman, it brings out the high damage in heroclix, and that's the part I really don't like, because the game becomes really unfun when the damage values are pretty much 4 and above. I hate to say it like that. Once you start saying, I have a printed 4 or above damage, the game becomes a different animal. Because impervious and invulnerability all of a sudden start to lose their luster really quickly. It's like, take 7. So I'll take 5 in the end. No. It's all penetrating. Take 7. But I paid 200 points for this guy, and you killed him in one shot. Yeah, take 7. So you can sort of see where I'm going with that. But I do give WizKids credit, positives and negatives. Usually when they do a DC set and they start handing out the crazy damage, they usually, not all the time, sort of attach a hefty price range on it. And they also make those characters a bit deep. So this is one thing I don't think most people have noticed, because I really haven't gotten any emails or commentary. There really hasn't been any commentary about it, is that we're really seeing more of those 7+ click figures. Like, let's see, like Block is 7+ plus clicks of life. Wildfire is, Mr. Majestics is 8. Mr. Miracle 7. Light Ray is 7. I mean, Darkseid at full dial he's 350. He's 10. But at 300, he's 8. So, I mean, that's a lot of clicks of life. At 200, he's 6, which it's like, yeah, I'm not feeling that. Solomon Grundy is 8, but he comes back. But I also think that Solomon Grundy will be the beginning of the Phoenix Force tech, because he can come back. He could come back. So once Solomon Grundy comes back, he gets all the bonuses of the Phoenix Force dial, like turning again. So that to me seems really scary. Now, also I will say that the Phoenix Force might actually be one of those like 1,000-point game resource dials, because you have a chance of giving multiple characters power cosmic permanently. But at the same time, that's yet to be proven, and I haven't worked on that tech yet. So yeah. Another thing that I sort of think is interesting is Bizarro. Just 300 points of ridiculous. And it's... I don't really know how to translate Bizarro into my mind. Like, parts of me are like, this is not right. Other parts of me are like, no, this could work. And then I come back to like, this isn't right. So you're able, you're just able to like standard hurt him on average, but it's still how he translates into actual play. I need to see it. I really need to see it. So I have hopes for Bizarro, but at the same time, I recognize that he can be a fake threat. Like, yeah, he can be a fake threat. He's not really a threat. Everybody thinks he is, but he's just all right. So the one thing, I think I've mentioned this before, and I'm gonna go dig this little gem up and start to unpack some stuff and about how I feel about the meta with this figure. And that's Highfather. Now, I know some of you are like, here he goes. It's in the Highfather again. It's like he's stalking Highfather. Like, a little bit. Highfather, to me, represents this dangerous defense and shenanigan trend that WizKids is doing. Which is, aggro is stupid high because of the Book of the Skull. Creative damage, weird play is there with the power plant. Your ridiculous space leap forward aggro that the utility belt was giving is nerfed. We're not at light speeds anymore with that. Okay, and your Infinity Gauntlet is still that slow chugging train that can build up, and if you stand in front of it, it will kill you. So it's, when I see Highfather come into this meta, the first thing I think to myself is, when you all designed this was before the watch list, were you designing this to shut down team bases? If so, congratulations, you have failed. Now, this is, again, I don't know the ruling. If the pact was applied to a team base under 300 points or less, the characters on solo adventure, since they are replacement characters, would they also be under the effect of the pact? If it was designed with that intent, then bravo, you shut down team bases from the meta. Good game. They are gone. And I know some people are like, what? You're just going to say it like that? Yes, team bases are gone, just like M10 Iron Man. You can play them, but understand Highfather is a silver bullet, and and we'll see for a while if Highfather is a risk, if people actually look at him like, oh yeah, I'm going to shut this game down. Okay. The other thing that it really needs to look at is Highfather kills the concept of tentpole teams. Now, does that mean that this is the end of Silver Centurion and M10 Iron Man and Absorbing Man and all this other stuff? Not necessarily for Silver Centurion, because Silver Centurion's his torpedo is not a character, so it can't be modified outside of that those acceleration tokens, but it can't be probbed either, and it doesn't give mystics damage, so it's not bound by the pact. So Silver Centurion is still around, but M10 Iron Man, he's on his way out. Anyway, they handed M10 Iron Man his gold suit of armor, and they said, thank you for all your years of service, Tony, and they escorted him out the building. Okay, just being real with it. Unless something comes up that makes the Book of the Skull the superior tech to run over the power plant, I don't see M10 sort of coming back. Anyway, moving on. The other issue I have with Highfather is hyper support. And he has a power in particular that I don't like with the healing. And so let's go into it. Let's look at his click 1. Highfather has phasing teleport. He is grounded, which is like, whoo-hoo, glad for that. Okay. He is cosmic, so Earthman can jack with his phasing, but who cares at this stage? You have TK. Okay, so that's one support power down. Then his special power is Isaiah the Creator. Highfather can use leadership. Okay, so I'm taking tokens off of characters 130 points or less. So yeah, that's pretty much the rest of my team. Probability control. So I can use that. I've probably at a range of 6, so that's okay. In support, so there's no perplex and no outwit, but that's really not as much of an issue in the meta as I thought it was. But here's the issue. This is where he does have weird support. When he uses support, the target's combat values are modified by +1 until the end of the turn of your next turn. Now, for those people who may not understand the impact of this, let me try to make it as plain as I can. You have the target character with decent stats. They attack, and then the next turn they attack and push. They'll take some damage from return fire, blah, blah, blah. You heal that character. Let's say you heal that character back to full with Highfather. Oh, I use leadership, and I took that token off of you, and I heal you, and yeah. Your 3 damage is now 4, and your 11 attack is now 12. You see where this is going? Even if that character didn't take damage, the fact that you could push, get on click 2, then use support, and you don't even have to be successful. You just have to do it. And then you get +1 stats. Everything. So +1 range, +1 movement, +1 damage, +1 defense until your next turn. So that's a turn in which technically you have perplexed that figure's all their stats. That's a bit much. That's really a bit much. And the fact that you're able to use leadership and prob to stack with that effect, that I have a slight issue with. The biggest thing I have an issue with Highfather is the pact, and you're like, yep, here he goes. At the beginning of the game, you may announce a pact. If you do, the highest point character on your force and the highest point character on your opponent's force, 300 points or less, can't target opposing characters with an attack until one of them has taken damage from an attack, or they are the only 2 characters on the map. Now you could say, well, hey, guy, I'll just go out there and shoot, one of your other guys and pack's broken, good game. Well, nope, it's not that simple. Because if I'm doing this, I'm probably going to have barrier. I'm saying probably. That's one way of doing it. And I can just creep up on you, and unless you can shoot out of adjacency, Highfather, most likely in a 300-point game, is my most expensive figure. And guess what? I'm just going to creep up on you. And I'm going to have Highfather tie you up the entire time. And, yep, that's it. You can't do jack. You can break away, but Highfather will just phase his little chair-sitting self right next to you again. So, the fact that I can take out, your big attacker from jump and stop him from attacking my other big attacker is another thing that's interesting. You can also stack it with the Mora's Truce from what was it, War of Lights, Star Sapphire. That fast forces. So you add in another level of lockdown. Okay. And so now I've not just shut down your main attacker. I've also shut down your secondary attacker, or I've shut down some other character that has significance for you from doing anything offensive. Now, here's the other issue. This does not stop poison. So I can just waddle up my, let's say, who is it? Man-Thing. And he's just sitting there like, hey guys, how you doing? How about this weather? And just sit there and do poison. Over and over and over and over again. Going into Golden Age, if your opponent by chance has Mystics, guess what? Mystics damage is not an attack. And you can say, well, they attack. Like, yep. And they're already at a disadvantage when they do. So there's a lot of shenanigans with this, and there's a lot of lockdown with this. I mean, you can even say like stealth and finding a way to stop your opponent from targeting anyone but Highfather with their highest level character. Like there's tons of different things that you can do to make this way more annoying. And if anything's to be said, I am scratching the surface. Like and I'll be honest, I usually call like that's going to be a shenanigan, and it does. But I never really say how. But I'm going to say it right here. It's going to be a shenanigan. And then it's going to be a while. And it's probably going to get reworded. Or they're going to already got something created to fix him. To counterweight him. Now the other thing that it's... Him being able to turn into Tachyon, I thought that was a little lame. I didn't like that. Because that gives him a way out. Like, he goes from, hello, I'm super support piece, to, da-da-da-da, Tachyon. Now, again, we have to see Tachyon, but here's the thing. You can heal Tachyon. You can just heal him. Unless Tachyon has a starting line, then you can't heal him, past that. But if Tachyon doesn't have a starting line, then, yeah, you're going to see all the shenanigans like you did with Osiris with what was it? Not the Legion of Supervillains. Teen Titans Villains for Hire. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But anyway, I'm looking forward to Toyman just for the pure fact of his attachables and knowing that those are going to be ridiculously costed. And I wouldn't say rightfully so, but I can understand if they are. Also, just sort of jumping over to Days of Futures Past real quick. I'm liking it. Like, I'm not going to front. I'm liking it. And the main reason I'm liking it is that there's nothing yet that just says to me super OP. It's just not. There's some things like, oh yeah, that's really strong. I like that. Or, questionable, but let's see where this goes. Like the Sentinels. Again, just Sentinels. Why Sentinels? Why? I hate whiz kids sometimes. I really do. As a child that grew up and watched the X-Men cartoon show, both of them, the first draft and the second one, to see Sentinels be this crappy pisses me off mighty royally. I don't want my Sentinels to suck like this. You call this an alpha class Sentinel, and it's like, yeah, 20 defense and perplex and poison. Like, what are they, tear gassing everybody? Like, the Sentinels never rolled like that. He's like, but Dark Logos, they had the offensive dial and the defensive dial. And I'm like, no, man, that's overcomplicating things to try to make people feel good when they spend $25 for this. And quote me, it's going to be $25 to $35 per Sentinel. And I hope they are not blind. I hope they are not blind. I don't know if they announced that or not, but oh gosh, Alpha Class Sentinels, like, and then 350 for like the super evil Sentinel, like that actually is scary. But at 350 points, I can get a bunch of better stuff. Now, I will say this: his attack values are awesome. His defense values are crap, but he might be hanging out with some people with defend. And also, what's that dude's name? Doctor Strange from the Gravity Feed of Galactic Guardians. So that he will have Energy Shield, Invincible, and possibly an 18 defense. Now that is awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, overall, I like it. You might be saying, like, you just trashed the Sentinels. Then how can you like it? Well, I like the mini Sentinels, and mainly the one that comes in. When you're looking at like the rookie dial at 75 points, that's really good. 75 points, flyer, force blast. You have Mutant Hunter. When Sentinel targets a character possessing Brotherhood of Mutants or X-Men team ability or keywords, modify its attack and damage values by +1 for the attack. So you're talking about up front 11 attack, 4 damage. That's for 75 points. That's ridiculous. And then activate Inhibitor Collar. Sentinels can use Pulse Wave when it hits a character. When it does, hit characters also given an action token. So you have a little bit of control. There's some Precision Strike, then some regen. So, I mean, I really like this. I'm Mikey from the commercial. But overall, I think that at 150, it's a complete waste of points. Now, I know some people might say, like, hey, Dark Logos, you haven't played it. You know, you don't know. And I admit I haven't played it because I don't have super access. But I will say this. At 150, how much weight you have to carry on a team, it just doesn't do it. Now, I will say this. For thematic play, these are awesome. Like Baby Sentinels are always awesome to have. And then Master Mold is on his way out. They give him his golden chair. They'll be like, hey, wait, buddy. We didn't forget about you, man. We didn't forget about you. Here's some more Baby Sentinels for you to pop off. There you go. There you go. I know the last few sucked. That's okay. Here's some Baby Sentinels. So, yeah. Like, that's the only reason I can see playing them. And then, here's the other problem. When you compare these Baby Sentinels to the Toys R Us exclusive Sentinels that you can play for around the same point range, you would rather play them. But you're going to say, like, man, but they're going to retire. Yeah, I know, but still, it hurts. It hurts my pride. I like the Sprite Aerial thing because technically you can just keep rolling a D6 every turn and you have a chance of turning between the two of them, which gives you tons of options. And technically, it gives you Prob, Perplex, and Outwit for the cost of 55 points. I know a lot of people don't see it like that, but for your Sprite form, I've seen a Future Clouded in Death. You can use, let's see, if Sprite was placed on the map through the promotion ability, she can use Outwit and Perplex, so that's awesome. And then you look at Ariel, and it says, I bring dark tidings from the future. Ariel can use super senses, they both can use super senses, which is pretty cool. If Ariel was placed on the map through battlefield promotion ability, she can use probability control. So Ariel gets probability control, push her one click, she gets support. So you have Prob, Perplex, Outwit, and Support in one character. Now note, you're going to have to get lucky if you want to like consistently be, flipping. But I do believe that is the first time that we've paid so cheap for a support figure that does so much. And I know other people are like, Destiny, what about Destiny? Destiny's broken. And I'm like, nah, Destiny's okay. Destiny has entered Meta 2.0. Actually, I'll rephrase that. Destiny has entered Meta 5.5. And we're looking at 5.6 landing soon. And so, my biggest issue with Destiny, I can see her getting picked off easily. She has some survivability, but nothing really to write home about for 50 points. Also, her little impossible to plan against the future, the impossible to plan against the future trait, I think is nice, but it forces her to be out front so that aura effect can get your opponent. But without stealth, that's going to hurt. That's really going to hurt. So, that I hate to say it. She's going to be seen for maybe 6 months. Maybe 6 months, and then she's going to fall off. And the main reason I think she's going to fall off is we've only had 2 sets with Precision Strike. So as Precision Strike becomes a norm, and we're dealing with pretty much sets where there's a lot of base damage, she's going to get 2-shotted or 1-shotted. I mean, a mildly perplexed up common Iron Man can 1-shot her. So that's I mean, let's be real. That's what we are dealing with. And you could say, well, hey, Destiny can use prob, at a range of 8 squares. Fine, I'll just find a 9 ranged or plus sniper with Precision Strike. Oh, we forgot about this wonderful character called Gizmo, who magically came out around this time last year. And if I recall correctly, he allows us to have, attack powers. I think I can get Precision Strike. And putting that on a team won't be a problem. Now, the other thing I do think is cool with Destiny is she is not unique. I sort of wish she was, but they're like, man, hey, Rookie Destinies, yeah. But because she's not unique, that impossible to plan against is really good. Now you're going to say, well, hey, the damage effect doesn't stack. And that's true. The damage effect doesn't stack because it specifically says it doesn't stack. But having multiples allows you to create an aura effect in which you can cover most of the map. With 3 of them, you should be able to cover the entire map, just about. And that's a little scary. So you're guaranteed that at least with 2 of them, once the major interaction of combat occurs, you can be very annoying. Very, very annoying. So, anyway, that's it. I'll end on this note. I'll end on this note since I'm getting a lot more comments about Rock and questions about what should I play, blah, blah, blah. If you are going to a Rock tournament and you hit me up, it's like, I'm going to the Rock. This is the format. I got to tell you, if you haven't done some homework for your format, you're in trouble. Like, you just are. I can give you all the great advice as I can, but literally, if you haven't done your homework for the format, you're in trouble. And it's not because stuff comes sideways. I mean, that always does happen. I mean, there's always something that comes sideways. But it's more along the line that most of the things from the Rock that I've seen has proven that the heroclix community is very fragmented in thinking. There is no uniform thought, or better yet, there is no voice of the meta. That's the best way to put it. There is nobody like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks or she speaks, then bam, everyone listens and the meta aligns. Norm is not that guy. This is not an insult to him. He's just not. Neither am I. I'm just going to be honest. I am definitely not. I'm like the magical genie that walks with you and on your adventures and occasionally produces, delightful creatures and powerful metamorphs and stuff and cracks jokes here and there. But I'm not the hero of the story. Okay? So because there isn't that uniform voice, one area is not guaranteed to be better or worse than another area. And I'm going to say this again, because I got into on a thread on HC Realms about a certain gentleman and why he didn't go to a Rock tournament and all this other stuff. And I'm not doing this as like, this is me slamming him on my show. And I don't want it to be seen that way. But I do think that it is foolhardy And it's also a bit cocky, just a bit cocky, to think that there's one area or two areas of the country which have superior meta. And even more so, I think it's dangerous from a competitive standpoint to think that the other sections of the nation or even global meta that the US or East Coast or West Coast dominates the thought or the skill or the player base. And I don't think that's true. And I would say this, I have a better sampling than probably let me put it like this. In the amount of people that have information about heroclix, I'm probably number 3. Like on the people that have the most information about heroclix as a game as a whole when it comes to the meta. I'm probably number 3. Number 1 is WizKids and Norm and all those guys. They have super secret knowledge that I don't know about because they officially get it. Number 2 would be Howard Brock and all the rock committees because they get the information first and they make tons of decisions and they have secret handshakes and stuff. And I get to find out about it later. And then number 3 is me because I talk to everyone. Everyone. You ask me a question, I'm bound to talk to you. So that's the one thing I will say is you can be in Philly, you can be in Chicago, you can be in freaking LA, you can be in Houston or Dallas, or you can be in Toronto, you can be in Argentina. It doesn't matter where you're at. Clicks are being played and the meta is fierce. You can be world champion caliber where you're at. You don't need to be in one of these places where a lot of good players have come out of. And I'm not knocking to say that their area doesn't produce high quality people. It does. It's proven that. But the one thing I will say is if the game was dominated consistently by one area, let's say we're going to call it Metroville. Let's say always in the top 8 of any Origin or Gen Con is 5 players from Metroville every year. Then I would say those guys, those girls over there dictate the meta, and they have a realm of thinking which is far superior to anybody else's. But that's not the case. And I give props to Dan. He's done what no other champion has done. He's won Gen Con twice. And then there was another, the national champion came from Philadelphia. And even talking to him this afternoon, there's a lot of places to play in Philadelphia. There's like 6 or 8, I don't know. But I know Chicago's like that. Tulsa was like that. Kansas City used to be like that. There's a lot of places that have lots of venues. And having lots of venues and lots of events and going to lots of events allows you to gain months and years worth of experience in a short period of time. And allows you to test more and see more. But I would say to those people, they're like, man, I don't have a lot of venues, dark logos around me. It's just rough. I only got the one place, the old good comic book store, and I go in there and I have a good time with my friends, and I don't really feel like, cutting them in half every week. Sometimes I just want to chill, but I do want to get better. What do I do? It's easy. Play Skype games. Play Skype games. And I know my New Year's resolution is play with the guys I mentor in HeroClix a bit more. And no, I don't have an official team. And if I did, it would be team assimilated. Have a big picture of a Borg on there. But anyway, I could never run a team because then no one would talk to me. And that would kill my show. And that would hurt you. So I could never run a team. Or be on a team. So there you go. Anyway, so play Skype games. Challenge people. over Skype or on the phone. I know it's like you could pay like $3 and get a Skype phone number and just call people. If you don't have long distance but you have decent internet, just call people. I do that for the quarry because I don't want people having my phone number. You know, Dan and Alex and George have my phone number, and Howard has my phone number, and a very limited set of people from HC Realms have my phone number. But beyond that, not many folks have my phone number. So, if you're concerned about, your personal information out there, $3 a month is worth it for getting better. Just say like, Thursday night, I'm going to play Jarmy 123. 2 weeks from now, I'm going to challenge Dark Logos to a Skype game, and we'll see what happens. And then I'll challenge, Billy Bob, in a couple of weeks. And so you'll still have your normal tournaments, but at the same time, you'll have additional experience, and you'll start exposing yourself to different thinkers, different ways of thought, different applications, different uses of figures, different uses of the rules. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'll break it down like this. Being the only heroclix meta podcast for a while was stressful to an extent. It was nice because you had no competition, but it was stressful because I felt like if I didn't cover everything, then if something fell through the cracks, it's like, oh shoot. But now having like Dial H for heroclix and a few others, trying to be a little bit more meta-y, or I can't even break that word down properly. That's now the full pressure isn't on me, but at the same time, I can go and listen to those cats and be like, okay, cool. Oh, that's a good application. I'm going to take that and I'm going to mix it with this, and then I'm going to put this together and I'm going to test it in my venue, and then I'm going to do all this other stuff, and then I bring it back to you on the podcast, and those guys listen to me and they're like, oh yeah, Dark Logo said this, so I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to add this other thing here, and then they go play it at their venue, and then they put it on their podcast and put it out. You see how it goes? And sharing of the information and getting out there and talking to other people, going out there playing other people, we all get better. So don't think that if you are in a army base somewhere overseas, or if you are stuck in the middle of, the Forsaken Lands, or if you're in a major city, everyone has a chance to be a champion. Everybody has the chance to get experience. It is up to you to utilize the tools before you to do it. Pure and simple. All right. That is it for the podcast today. I told you I was going to give you an hour show, and lo and behold, we are sitting around the hour 20 almost. So let's wrap things up, and you know the drill. You can follow me on Twitter. Know when a new show is coming out. You can follow me at StartOverPod. It came from outer space, brought me a picture of Martian women, and left me more confused than excited. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, and you'll definitely know when the new shows are out. You'll see my random musings. Also, I think I'm going to have the official hashtag Broke Strong. So just hashtag Broke Strong. And that'll be our inside joke. I didn't come up with it. Another listener came up with it. So hashtag Broke Strong. Yeah, so that's going to be our inside joke. Also, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it rocking. Let me know. It's Black History Month. I haven't gone into Black History Month team rant. I might do that next week. Who do you want me to talk about for Black History Month for team design? And at what point values do you want me to talk about figures for Black History Month? let me know, because it's something that I will have a lot of fun doing research on. So let that be the email question of the week. Also, email me your AME Ask Me Anything questions for episode 100. All right, last but not least, there's the blog, which is like a dusty old book that I need to read. I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna try. So so maybe sometime this week I'll put it out, and you'll find out about it on Twitter. So yay! So there you go. Another benefit for following me on Twitter. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging with me through 90-some episodes. I talked to Mr. Alvey today. He's running a rock in Kentucky, March 8th. And he said he listens to the show. And so big shout-outs to him. Big shout-outs to a couple of other folks. You know, y'all listen to the show. And then I get to interview you. And I get to hear that, you know, I'm part of your heroclix history. So that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So that's about it. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.